The abandoned girl. The night was cold, and the sky above burned with two pale moons. On the cracked ground of a dying world, a small figure lay still. Her name was Lyra. She was young, barely grown by the standards of her people. Her silver skin was cut and bruised, and her dark eyes opened slowly, full of pain and confusion. Lyra tried to rise, but her legs were weak. Her body trembled. She looked around and saw only shadows moving between broken rocks. The air smelled of ash and strange. Growls echoed from far away. Fear filled her chest. She remembered what had happened. The ship, the mission, the betrayal. Her own people had left her here, thrown away like broken equipment. They had called her weak, useless, not worth saving. The memory burned more than her wounds. Now she was alone. Alone on a planet full of monsters. The ground shook as something huge moved nearby. Lyra's breath caught in her throat. She crawled to the side of a ruined wall and pressed her body flat against it. Her heart pounded fast. Then she saw it. A creature, tall as a tower, walked slowly in the distance. Its body was covered in thick black scales, and its eyes glowed yellow in the dark. Every step made the earth groan. Its mouth opened, and a roar filled the air, deep and heavy, shaking dust from the rocks. Lyra bit her lip hard to stop herself from making a sound. The creature's head turned slightly. For a long moment, she thought it had seen her. Her mind screamed, "Do not move. Do not breathe." The monster sniffed the air, growled, and then walked away into the fog. Lyra closed her eyes, her body shaking. She had survived this time, but for how long? She sat down against the wall, too weak to stand. Her hands shook as she touched a small device hanging from her neck. Broken. The communicator no longer worked. No one was coming for her. No help. No rescue. She whispered to herself in a voice cracked and low. They left me. They left me to die. The silence of the world was broken again. Not by the roar of a monster, but by the sound of claws scratching on stone. A smaller shape crawled on the rocks nearby. It was not the giant beast from before. This one was fast, lean, with sharp legs and a mouth full of long teeth. Its eyes burned red, and its tongue flicked the air like a snake. Lyra froze. The creature crept closer, hissing. Her body told her to run, but her legs were too weak. She had no weapon, no strength. All she could do was watch death move closer. The creature jumped. Lyra raised her hands to protect her face, and then, bang! A sharp sound cut through the night. The monster screamed. A hole appeared in its head, and black blood spilled on the ground. The body dropped, sliding in the dirt only a few steps from her. Lyra gasped. Someone was there. Someone else was alive. From the fog, a figure walked forward. Not tall, not powerful, not glowing with alien energy. He was something else. A human. His face was hidden behind a broken helmet, scratched and old. His armor looked patched together, worn from years of use. In his hands he carried a strange weapon that smoked from the shot. He moved slowly, careful, eyes scanning the shadows. He was hunting, or maybe surviving. Lyra's heart beat faster. She had heard of humans before. Her people said they were weak, fragile creatures, not fit for war or survival. But this one had just killed the monster with one shot. The man looked at her. For a long moment, they stared at each other. She saw tired eyes behind the cracked glass of his helmet. He said, "Nothing." She said nothing. Only silence, heavy and sharp dot. Then he turned away. He didn't attack her. He didn't help her. He simply kept walking, his weapon ready, his body moving like someone who had lived with danger for a long time. Lyra's mouth opened, but no words came. She wanted to call out, but fear chained her tongue. Was he safe? Was he another kind of danger? She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling her heart thunder. The human disappeared into the fog, leaving her alone again, but not completely alone. For the first time since she woke, there was a spark of hope in her. Someone else was alive. On this cursed world. Someone strong enough to fight the monsters. Her people had abandoned her. But maybe this human was different. In the distance, another roar shook the sky. The monsters were not gone. The night was only beginning. Lyra rose to her feet, weak but determined. She took a slow breath and stepped forward into the fog, following the faint trace of the human's path, because if she stayed alone, she would die. But if she followed him, maybe, just maybe, she could live. The encounter of the night fog grew thicker, curling between broken rocks like ghostly fingers. Lyra walked slowly, each step heavy, her body aching from wounds and hunger. The sound of her own heartbeat filled her ears. She followed the faint trail. The human had left, the marks of boots pressed into dust, small pieces of stone disturbed by his steps. Her people had called humans weak, but weakness did not kill monsters with one shot. Weakness did not walk so calmly in a land of death. Who was he? What was he doing here? Every few minutes she stopped, listening. The world around her was never silent. Low growls drifted in the air. Sometimes claws scraped on stone. Sometimes wings beat overhead, shadows passing across the twin moons. The monsters never rested. They ruled this land. And now she was walking deeper into their hunting grounds, chasing a stranger who might not even care if she lived or died. But she had no choice. The trail ended at a jagged cliff. She crouched low and looked down. There he was. The human stood in a shallow valley below, near the skeleton of some great beast. Its bones were taller than towers, white and cracked with age. Around them, the ground glowed faintly with strange blue moss. He was not resting. He was working. Lyra's eyes widened. He had set small traps around the valley, made from scrap metal and wire. He moved with the speed of someone who had done this 100 times before. Each step, each motion, was quiet and careful. He checked his weapon, reloaded it with shaking but practiced hands. This was no wanderer. This was a survivor. Lyra leaned closer, trying to understand his plan. A stone slipped under her hand. It tumbled down the cliff, clattering loud in the still night. The human's head snapped up. His weapon rose in one smooth motion, pointed straight at her. Lyra froze. The glowing moss lit her face faintly. For a long, breathless second, the world seemed to stop. She could see his finger tighten on the trigger. Her heart pounded like a drum. She lifted her hands slowly, showing she had no weapon. The human did. Not shoot, but he did not lower his gun either. He studied her. His helmet was cracked, his face shadowed, but she could see the sharp lines of his jaw, the tiredness in his eyes. His body was tense, like a predator ready to strike. Lyra's throat felt dry. She wanted to speak, but she knew he would not understand her language. Instead, she lowered her hands and touched her chest gently. "My name?" "Lyra," she whispered, though she knew he could not understand. The man gave no sign he understood, but he lowered his gun slightly, just enough to show he did not plan to kill her. Not yet. Then he turned his head. His body stiffened. Lyra followed his gaze. Her blood turned cold. From the far side of the valley, shapes crawled out of the shadows. 6-legged beasts with hard shells and snapping jaws. Their eyes glowed like burning coals. They had smelled prey. The human moved fast. He pointed at Lyra, then pointed at the bones of the giant skeleton, motioning for her to hide. His voice was sharp but low, a command she did not understand, but felt in her bones. For a moment, she hesitated. Should she trust him? The beast screamed. Rushing forward, her body chose for her. She scrambled down the cliff and hid among the great white bones. The human did not hide. He stood in the open, weapon ready. The monsters charged, claws digging deep into the earth. Their screeches cut through the night air. Bang. One fell. Bang. Another collapsed. Its shell cracked open, but there were too many. The human dropped his gun, out of bullets. He drew a blade from his side, shining dull in the moonlight. The beasts lunged. He slashed, fast and fierce, his movements full of raw survival instinct. From her hiding place, Lyra watched with wide eyes. This was no weak creature. This was a warrior forged by years of fear and hunger. Every strike was desperate but powerful. Every step was survival. Still, the monsters pressed closer. Their screeches shook her bones. She felt her body tremble. Her instincts screaming, run, escape, but she did not run. She could not. Something inside her burned, a spark she did not know she had. This man had saved her once. Now he fought alone, against impossible odds. Her people had left her to die. This human had not. Her hand closed around a sharp bone shard lying near her. She rose to her feet. The beasts circled the human. One leaped. At his back, Lyra screamed, and with all her strength, drove the bone shard into the monster's side. Black blood splattered on her skin. The creature fell with a howl. The human spun, shocked. Their eyes met. For the first time, he saw her not as a helpless girl, but as someone willing to fight. Together, they stood side by side. The monsters snarled, circling again. The human raised his blade. Lyra gripped the bone shard tight. Two strangers. Two enemies by nature, now united in the face of death. The night howled with the sound of monsters as the battle began. Asterisk. Strangers in the dark. The valley shook with screams. Monsters circled, claws scraping rock, jaws snapping in hunger. Their red eyes glowed in the dark, watching, waiting. Lyra stood with her back against the human. Her chest heaved, her body still. Weak from wounds, but her grip on the bone shard was steady. The human's blade gleamed faintly, his stance sharp, controlled. They did not speak. They did not need to. The monsters closed in. The first one leapt. The human spun, blade flashing, cutting through its neck. Black blood sprayed across the glowing. Moss. Another beast darted low, too fast. Lyra thrust her shard into its side. The creature shrieked, twisting, but she pulled the bone deeper until it fell silent. Her arms trembled. Fear tried to choke her, but something stronger pushed it away. The fire to survive. 3 more rushed at once. The human shouted, a raw sound of warning. He slammed his blade into the ground, flipping sharp wires he had hidden earlier. 2 beasts screamed as the traps sliced their legs. The third broke through, crashing into him, knocking him hard against the giant skeleton bones. His weapon flew. From his hand, the monster's jaws opened wide, teeth dripping with black slime. Lyra didn't think. She moved. She jumped on the creature's back, stabbing again and again, her arms fueled by terror and rage. The beast howled and flung her off, her body crashing against the bones. Pain shot through her chest, but she forced herself to rise. The human rolled, grabbing a broken bone from the ground. With one powerful thrust, he drove it into the monster's throat. The creature collapsed with a dying roar. Silence fell for 1 long second. Then came the sound, a deep, echoing cry, far away but heavy as thunder. The air itself seemed to shiver. The human froze. His head turned slowly toward the dark hills beyond. The valley. His jaw clenched tight. Lyra followed his gaze. A shadow moved there. A massive shape, larger than all the beasts they had fought. Its eyes glowed like burning suns. It was coming. The smaller monsters backed away, hissing as if even. They feared what was approaching. The human grabbed his weapon, reloaded quickly with shaking hands. He glanced at Lyra, his eyes sharp, urgent. He pointed toward the cliff, motioning for her to climb, to run. Lyra's stomach twisted. He was telling her to escape. To leave him, doubt her heart pounded. Her people had abandoned her once. Left her. To die. Could she do the same to him? The ground trembled as the giant beast roared again, closer now. Stones fell from the cliff walls. The human shouted at her, his voice raw with command, his arm pointing again. His body stood firm, weapon ready, as if he planned to face the monster alone. Lyra's hands shook. Every part of her wanted to obey, to run and hide, to save herself. But her feet did not move. Her eyes locked on his dot. This human had not left her, even when he could have. No, she whispered. Though he could not understand, the giant shadow stepped into the valley. Its body was like a nightmare carved from darkness. 4 legs thick as pillars, claws long as spears, its back covered in jagged spikes. Its mouth was wide enough to swallow them whole. The human raised his weapon, shoulders tense. Lyra stood beside him, bone shard still in her hand, her body weak but her spirit unbroken. The beast roared, and the world shook. The human fired. The shot exploded against the monster's chest, but it barely slowed. It charged forward, the ground breaking beneath its weight. Lyra screamed as the human pulled her down, both of them rolling behind the skeleton bones. The monster's claws smashed into the ground, sending shards of bone flying. The human grabbed her arm, dragging her through the maze of bones. His movements were fast, desperate. He knew they could not fight this thing. Not head on. Lyra stumbled but followed, her mind racing. The beast smashed through the skeleton, its roar deafening. They ran, weaving through the valley, the monster chasing. Its claws tore through rock, its body smashing the traps and bones like paper. The human stopped suddenly. He dropped his gun. Out of bullets again. His eyes darted, searching. Then he grabbed one of the glowing moss patches and ripped it from the ground. The light in his hand burned strange and bright. He threw it far into the shadows. The beast roared and turned, slamming toward the glowing distraction. The human grabbed Lyra's wrist and pulled her into a narrow crack in the cliff wall. They pressed against the cold stone, breathing hard, silent. A monster's roar shook the valley again. Its massive claws scraped the ground, searching. Lyra's heart thundered so loud she thought the beast would hear it. She pressed her lips shut, holding her breath. The human did the same, his eyes locked on the monster, his chest rising and falling slowly. The beast sniffed the air. Its huge head swung toward their hiding place. Its glowing eyes narrowed. It stepped closer. Lyra's entire body froze. The human gripped his blade tight, ready to fight even if it meant death. The monster's head lowered, its breath hot and foul, its shadow covering them completely. And then a scream echoed from the distance. Not human, not monster. Something else. The beast jerked its head up, growled deep, and turned away, stomping back into the dark hills. The ground trembled as it left. Silence fell. Lyra collapsed against the stone, gasping, her whole body shaking. The human sank down beside her, his blade still in his hand, his face hard, but his eyes full of exhaustion. They had survived. Barely. For a long moment they just breathed, side by side, strangers in the dark. And for the first time, Lyra realized something. She was no longer alone. Trust through battle. The night had not ended. It only grew darker. After the monster's roar faded into the hills, silence returned, heavy, broken only by the sound of their breathing. Lyra sat with her back against the cold cliff wall. Her hands still trembled. The bone shard she held was slick with black blood, but she did not let go. Beside her, the human wiped his blade clean on the ground. His chest rose and fell slowly, as if he forced himself calm. His eyes scanned the valley, sharp and restless, always watching. They had survived. But survival on this planet never lasted long. The human stood, motioning with his hand. His voice was low, a string of words she could not understand, but his tone was clear. Move. Lyra's body ached, but she pushed herself up. She followed him out of the crack in the cliff, every step careful. The valley was still. The glowing moss had dimmed, and the skeleton bones now looked like pale ghosts under the moons. But the tracks in the dirt showed the truth. Smaller beasts still lurked nearby. Their claws had scratched deep marks into the stone. The human walked with silent steps, moving like a shadow. Lyra tried to copy him, but her body betrayed her with small stumbles and broken breaths. His head turned each time, his glare sharp, but he did not leave her behind. Not yet. They reached a narrow passage between jagged rocks. The human stopped. He crouched low, touching the ground. His fingers brushed the dirt. Then he froze. Lyra leaned closer. Curious dot tracks. Fresh ones. Large. Many. Her stomach tightened. More monsters. The human's jaw set. He motioned again, his hand telling her to stay quiet. Then he pulled something from his pack. A small piece of metal, sharp and bent, tied with wire. He crouched low, setting it against the rock path. A trap. Lyra's eyes widened. She understood now. He had been preparing traps all over the valley. That was how he survived so long. Not with strength, not with power, but with patience. With cunning. The human glanced at her, his eyes narrowing. He raised 2 fingers to his lips, a silent command. Then he waited. The sound came slowly. First, the scrape of claws. Then the growl of many throats. Shadows moved at the far end of the passage, eyes glowing red in the dark. The beasts were coming. The human stayed perfectly still, his breath slow. Lyra's hands clenched around her bone shard. Her heart screamed at her to run, but her legs would not move. The first beast stepped into the trap. Snap. The metal wire closed around its leg. The creature screamed, thrashing wildly, its blood spraying against the stone. The others shrieked, charging forward in fury. The human moved with sudden speed. His gun barked fire, dropping one monster. His blade slashed, cutting another. He was a storm of motion, precise, deadly. But there were too many. Beast lunged past him, jaws wide, aiming straight for Lyra. Her body reacted before thought. She ducked, driving her shard into its throat. Black blood poured hot across her arm. The beast convulsed and fell. Her chest heaved, her heart pounding. She looked up and saw the human watching her. His eyes, usually cold, flickered with something new, respect. But there was no time. Another monster slammed into him, knocking his weapon away. He hit the stone hard, the beast clawing at his chest. Lyra screamed. She ran forward, grabbing a heavy rock. With all her strength, she smashed it against the creature's skull. Once, twice, the bone cracked. The monster fell limp. The human shoved it off, gasping for breath. His eyes locked with hers again. Different this time. They were no longer strangers. But the fight wasn't over. More shadows moved at the far end of the path. Too many. The human grabbed her arm, pulling her close. He shouted, his voice low but fierce. She didn't understand the words, but the meaning was clear. Run. Together, they sprinted through the narrow path. The monsters chased, their shrieks echoing. The human threw down more traps as they ran, wires snapping, spikes slamming shut, slowing the beasts. They burst out of the passage into open ground. The human pushed her toward a ruined structure, half-buried walls of some ancient building, long dead. They stumbled inside, hiding in the shadows. The monsters screeched outside, circling, searching. Lyra crouched low, her chest burning. She glanced at the human. His hands shook as he reloaded his gun, but his face stayed hard, calm. He had fought for her. She had fought for him. Her people would never believe it. Minutes passed. The monsters prowled, but did not enter. Finally, their screeches faded into the night. Carried away on the wind. Silence returned. Lyra leaned against the cold wall, exhausted. The human sat across from her, his weapon on his lap, his eyes never fully resting. In that silence, something changed. He was no longer just a stranger with a weapon. He was her shield, her ally, her only chance to live. And though she could not speak his language, she whispered softly into the dark, "I will not leave you." Her voice trembled, but her eyes did not. The human looked at her as if he felt the weight of her words even without knowing them. For the first time, he gave a small nod. In that ruined shelter, surrounded by death and silence, two abandoned souls found something they had never expected. Trust, but trust, in a world of monsters, was fragile. And the night was not over. Secrets of the human, the ruins, were quiet. Too quiet. Lyra sat against the broken wall, her body trembling with exhaustion. Her silver skin was smeared with dirt and monster blood. Her breathing came in short bursts, but her eyes never left the human. He sat across from her in the dim light, gun resting on his knees, blade still close at hand. His helmet lay on the ground now, cracked and useless. His face was bare, and it was not what she expected. His features were sharp but worn, his jaw rough with an unshaved beard. A scar cut across his cheek, thin and pale. His eyes, a deep human brown, were heavy with shadows of years she could not count. They were not the eyes of a weak creature. They were the eyes of someone who had seen death too many times and refused to bow to it. For a long moment, he simply sat there, staring at the ground as though his mind was far away. Then Lyra saw his hands. His fingers were covered in small cuts, his knuckles thick with scars. His nails were broken and dirty. These were not the hands of a soldier trained in glory. These were the hands of a man who had built, broken, fought, and survived with nothing but grit. Lyra felt something strange twist in her chest. Her people had always called humans soft, fragile, easily broken. But looking at him now, she saw the truth. This was not fragility. This was steel. The silence stretched long, heavy. Finally, he looked up. Their eyes met. He did not speak, but he reached slowly into his pack. His movements were careful, as if he did not want to scare her. He pulled out a small, flat object, a square piece of glass framed in bent metal. He held it out. Lyra leaned closer. Cautious. It was not glass. It was an image, faded, scratched, but clear enough. A picture of people. Two children, a woman, and the human himself, younger, smiling. Lyra's breath caught. His family. She looked at him, then back at the picture. Her throat tightened. She did not need to understand his language to know what this meant. They were gone, lost. He was alone. Just like her, the human's jaw clenched. He closed his eyes for a moment, then slid the picture back into his pack, close to his chest, like a piece of his soul he refused to lose. Silence again. But now it was different. Lyra touched her own chest. Slowly, she lowered her head toward him, a gesture of respect in her people's way. He watched her, silent, his face unreadable. But after a moment, he gave a small nod. The air grew colder. A low wind howled through the broken walls. Lyra shivered. The night still hunted them. The human rose, moving stiffly. She noticed it then. His body carried more scars than his face. A deep wound cut across his ribs, half healed but raw. His left arm moved slower than his right. His leg dragged slightly, stiff with old pain. He had lived here for years, fighting monsters and nightmares. And each scar was proof. But what kind of will kept a man alive this long, when even her people had abandoned the place as hopeless? Before she could think further, a sound shattered the silence. Not a growl, not claws. Something sharper. A metallic click dot. The human froze. He raised his hand quickly, signaling her to stay low. His weapon was in his grip instantly, his body tense. Eyes scanning the dark. Lyra pressed her back to the wall, her heart pounding. The sound came again. A faint whir, like machines turning. Then she saw it. Not a beast, not a shadow. Something different. From the broken passage outside the ruins, lights flickered. Small red beams cut through the fog. Metal shapes crawled forward, their bodies clicking and grinding. Machines. Lyra single quotes. Blood went cold. These were not wild monsters. These were weapons. She had seen them before. Her people used them as scouts and hunters. Her heart sank. If these machines were here, it meant something terrible. Her people had not just abandoned her. They had sent machines to make sure she did not survive. The human crouched, watching the drones carefully. His face was grim, but not surprised. He had seen them before. He knew their danger. Lyra's throat tightened. She whispered, almost without sound, "They hunt me." The human glanced at her, eyes sharp. He could not understand the words, but he understood enough. His jaw clenched, his grip on the gun tighter. The drones crawled closer, their red eyes scanning the ruins. The faint hum of their energy cores filled the air. The human motioned quickly. Down, quiet. He placed his finger to his lips. Lyra nodded, pressing herself low against the wall. The machines moved inside. Their claws scratched against stone. Their red eyes swept across the ruins, searching. The human waited. His body was still as stone, but every muscle was ready to strike. One drone moved close, its light shining across the wall near Lyra. She held her breath, her body frozen, sweat dripping down her back. The human shifted slowly, raising his blade. The machine turned its head. Its light swept across him. In a flash, he moved. The blade cut through the drone's neck, sparks bursting into the night. The machine fell, screeching, its red light fading. The others screamed in mechanical fury. There, weapons charged, glowing bright. The human grabbed Lyra's arm and shoved her toward the back of the ruins. His voice was sharp, fierce, but not cruel. A command to survive. The drones fired. Beams of red light sliced through stone, burning holes in the walls. The ruins shook, dust falling in clouds. Lyra stumbled, her body weak, but the fire in her chest kept her moving. The human's gun barked again and again, each shot echoing like thunder, dropping drones one by one. Sparks lit the night, but for each one that fell, more crawled from the fog. Lyra's eyes widened in horror. It was no end. She realized the truth. Her people had not just abandoned her. They had condemned her. And now the human fought not just monsters, but machines built by her own kind. The weight of guilt crushed her, even as fear filled her veins. And yet, he did not leave her. He did not run. He fought for her. At Great Hunt, the ruins burned red with the glow of the drones. Sparks flew as their weapons carved holes in the stone. Beams of searing light cutting through the night. The walls shook. Dust fell in clouds. Lyra ran beside Daniel, her chest burning, her lungs desperate for air. His hand gripped her wrist, pulling her forward with strength that never seemed to die, even as his body bled. His gun roared, each shot a thunderclap in the dark, but for every drone that fell, 2 more crawled out of the fog. "They won't stop," Lyra whispered, her voice breaking. "They won't stop until I am gone." Daniel couldn't understand her words, but his eyes said everything. He already knew. A drone leapt from above, its claws slicing through the air. Daniel spun, slashing with his blade, cutting it apart mid-fall. The machine hit the ground in a shower of sparks. He shoved Lyra behind him, his jaw set, his eyes burning with fury. For one fleeting moment, she felt safe. Then the ground trembled. Both of them froze. The sound was not claws, not drones. Something heavier. Deeper. The ruins shook again, stones falling from above. A roar split the night, shaking the air itself. Lyra's blood turned cold. She knew that sound. The beast from the valley. The giant. The nightmare. The one that even monsters feared. It had returned. The fog tore apart as it stepped into view. Its massive form rose higher than the ruins, claws long as blades, eyes burning like suns. Each step cracked the earth. Its roar sent drones scattering like insects, but not fleeing. No, they turned their weapons toward it, as if her people's machines thought they could destroy even this horror. The night became chaos. Drones fired beams of light into the monster's chest. The beast screamed, its claws tearing through machines like paper, sparks exploding in waves. Metal and flesh, shrieks and roars, collided in a storm of death. Lyra staggered back, her body shaking with terror. The monster's head swung, its glowing eyes locking on her. She froze. Daniel moved instantly, shoving her behind a wall as the beast's claws slammed down. Stone shattered, the ground splitting open. They tumbled together into the dirt. Dust cleared. Daniel was already on his feet, dragging her up. His voice thundered with words she couldn't understand, but she felt the meaning burn into her bones. Run! They sprinted through the ruins as the great beast fought the drones. Behind them, the ground shook with each strike. Explosions painted the sky in fire and sparks, but the beast was not distracted forever. Its head turned again. Its roar cut through the chaos. It wanted her. It hunted her. Daniel skidded to a stop, dragging her into another narrow passage. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his face, blood seeping from his side. He leaned against the wall for a second, his breath sharp. Lyra saw it now. He was weakening. His wounds were deep. His body was breaking. But his eyes were steel. He would not stop. The ground cracked. The beast's massive claw tore through the wall above, stone crumbling like sand. Daniel shoved her forward, then turned back. Blade raised. No! Lyra cried, her voice desperate. He didn't understand her words, but he understood her fear. His eyes softened for one heartbeat. Then he smiled, a small, tired smile, the kind of smile a man gives before doing something. That cannot be undone. And then he ran toward the beast. Daniel. Her scream was lost in the roar. He charged forward, his blade flashing. He leapt onto the monster's claw, climbing with desperate speed. The beast thrashed, shaking the ruins, drones firing wildly all around. Daniel struck again and again, stabbing into its thick hide, climbing higher with each strike. Lyra's heart hammered in her chest. She couldn't move. She couldn't breathe. He was going to die. The beast raised its arm, slamming Daniel against the ruins. His body twisted, blood spraying, but he held on. With one final roar of his own, he drove the blade deep into the monster's eye. The creature screamed, thrashing violently. Its massive body slammed against the ruins, crushing drones and stone alike. Daniel fell. No. Lyra ran, her legs burning, her lungs tearing apart. She reached him as he hit the ground hard, his body limp, blood pooling beneath him. The monster staggered, its eye destroyed, its body shaking with rage. It was not dead, but wounded. The drone swung it, firing again, and for once they slowed it down. Lyra dropped to her knees beside Daniel. His eyes fluttered open, his breath shallow. His face was pale, his body broken. But his hand reached weakly, gripping hers. Tears blurred her vision. She pressed his hand against her chest, her voice breaking. "You saved me. You foolish. Human, you saved me." He coughed, blood staining his lips, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. Fierce, demanding. He wanted her to keep running, to live, but she shook her head violently. "No," she whispered, voice trembling but strong. "I will not leave you. Not now. Not ever." Behind them, the monster roared again, tearing apart the last of the drones. Its massive shadow loomed over them, shaking the earth as it raised its claws for the final strike. Lyra looked up, her hands still clutching Daniel. Her people had left her. Her world had abandoned her. But this human, broken, scarred, dying, had fought for her, had refused to leave her. Now it was her turn. She rose slowly, her bone shard still in her grip. Her body shook, her wounds screamed, but her eyes burned with fire. She stood between Daniel and the monster, a tiny figure against a giant, and she whispered, her voice steady, fierce, "You will not take him." The beast roared, the sound of the hunt filling the sky. The great hunt was not overdotted, had only just begun. A new beginning. The beast roared, its massive body shaking the earth. Its shadow swallowed the ruins, its claws raised high, black blood dripping from the ruined eye Daniel had destroyed. Lyra stood in front of Daniel, her small body trembling, but her eyes burned with fire. She gripped her bone shard so tight it cut her palm. Blood ran down her hand, but she did not let go. The monster lowered its head. Its breath was hot, its teeth jagged like blades. One strike, and both of them would be gone. But Lyra did not move. Daniel's voice rasped behind her, weak but urgent. Words she did not understand, but the meaning was clear. "Run, save yourself." She shook her head, never looking away from the beast. Her voice was steady, strong despite the fear in her chest. "I will not leave you." A monster roared again and lunged. Lyra threw herself to the side, dragging Daniel with all her strength. The claw smashed into the ground, shattering stone, spraying dust into the air. The ruins cracked, walls collapsing. Daniel coughed blood, his grip weak, but his eyes still sharp, refusing to close. His hand brushed her arm, trying again to push her away, to sacrifice himself. "No," she hissed, tears burning her eyes. "Not this time." The beast raised its head again, shrieking with rage. But before it could strike, the ground shook with a different sound. Engines, lights cut through the fog above. Shadows of ships descended, sleek and sharp. Lyra's heart dropped. She knew those ships. The markings on their hulls glowed with the symbol of her people. Her people had come back, but not to save her. The ships opened fire. Beams of white energy rained down, striking the monster. It screamed, staggering back as explosions tore across its body. Flesh burned, black scales shattered. The beast thrashed in agony, but still it fought, ripping one of the ships from the sky with a single strike. The battle filled the night with fire and thunder. Lyra shielded Daniel, crouched low in the ruins. Her heart twisted. These were her people, the same people who abandoned her, who sent machines to kill her. And now they came not for her, but to destroy the beast, to erase all evidence. Even her. Daniel's hand weakly gripped her wrist. His eyes flicked to the ships, then back to her, as if asking, "Will you go back to them?" Her answer came without thought. "No," she whispered fiercely. "Never." The monster shrieked, collapsing under the rain of fire. Its body crashed into the ruins, crushing stone and drones alike. The ground split open, fire erupting into the sky. The beast was dead, but the danger was not over. The ships descended lower, searchlights sweeping the ruins. Lyra's blood went cold. She knew what came next. Her people would not let her live. Not after she had seen too much. They would finish what they started. Daniel coughed, his body weak, broken. He tried to rise, but she pressed him down gently. "Stay," she whispered. Her mind raced. There was no place to run, no weapon to fight ships, no hope unless... Her eyes turned to the monster's corpse. Its blood steamed in the firelight, thick and dark. The ruins around it glowed faintly with energy, the same strange blue moss, now burning brighter, feeding on the beast's death. An idea struck. Lyra crawled to the monster's body, her hands trembling. She ripped free one of its broken spikes, heavy and sharp, glowing faintly with its strange energy. She staggered under its weight, dragging it back toward Daniel. He stared at her, confusion in his eyes. She dropped the spike beside him, then grabbed his hand. Her voice was fierce, trembling with both fear and hope. "Together," she said. He didn't understand the word, but he understood her eyes. The searchlights drew closer. Daniel pushed himself up, teeth clenched against pain. He wrapped his bloody hands around the monster's spike, lifting it with her. His body shook, but his spirit blazed. The first ship descended, its weapons charging. Lyra screamed, and together they hurled the glowing spike into the sky. It struck the ship with a thunderous crack. The energy inside the beast's blood exploded, ripping the vessel apart in a storm of fire. The blast lit the night like a sun. The other ships reeled back. Alarms blared. They fired wildly, beams scorching the ruins. Lyra and Daniel dove behind the monster's corpse as fire rained around them. The ground shook again. The ruins split. The carcass of the beast collapsed deeper into the earth, dragging rubble with it, and then silence. Smoke filled the air. The ships, damaged and burning, turned away, retreating into the night sky. The great hunt was over. Lyra coughed, her lungs burning. She crawled to Daniel. His face was pale, his breath shallow. Blood soaked his chest. "No," she whispered, her voice cracking. She pressed her hands to his wounds, tears streaming down her face. "Stay, please, stay." His eyes opened weakly. He looked at her, and for the first time since she met him, he spoke a word she understood. "Live." Her heart shattered. She shook her head violently. "Not without you. Never without you." For a long, painful moment, silence hung between them. And then, against all odds, Daniel's lips curved into the faintest smile. His eyes closed, not in death, but in exhaustion, surrendering to her care. Lyra pulled him into her arms, her body shaking with sobs. The fire burned around them, the ruins collapsed, but she held him tight. She lifted her face to the sky, to the stars beyond the smoke, and whispered with trembling strength, "You called them weak, but no one is stronger than a human." The night finally quieted. The beast was gone. The ships had fled, and in the broken ruins of a dead world, an alien girl carried a dying human into the dawn, not as enemies, not as strangers, but as the beginning of something new. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe for more powerful sci-fi stories.